reaction is reflected in his statement, Kate. He'll receive an intelligence briefing in this coming week. And in the meantime, he believes it's time to move on. And I mean, I've been reading all the news reports about these retaliations, these sanctions put forward by President Obama and his administration. Some of them seem largely symbolic. The GRU doesn't really travel here, doesn't keep its assets here. There's no indication our allies will follow suit. And we're yet to see all of the intelligence reports, and the we would be the president-elect. So he'll have that briefing next week. But in the meantime, he repeated today what he said last night to reporters here at Mar-a-Lago, which is he believes it's time to move on to bigger and better things for the country.
I want to ask you about that. I mean, the statement says time to move on to bigger and better things, as you just said. What does that mean?
It means exactly what the president-elect has said, which is we've been talking about this for a while. I think that, you know, all we heard all through the election was Russia, Russia, Russia. Whenever it came to anything Donald Trump said or did, it seemed most days. And now, you know, since the election, it's just this fever pitch of accusations and insinuations. And we know why Hillary Clinton lost. I think the cues and clues are pretty obvious. They were obvious to us all along. They're very obvious to everyone now. And I don't believe Vladimir Putin deterred her from competing in, you know, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, states that Donald Trump carried for the first time as a Republican in decades.
I think what a lot of people want to know is that, of course, the president-elect can reverse all of this when he takes office in a very short time. Will he reverse these actions taken by President Obama?
I won't make a statement on that at all tonight. I will tell you that even those who are sympathetic to President Obama on most issues are saying that part of the reason he did this today was to, quote, box in President-elect Trump. That would be very unfortunate if that were if politics were the motivating factor here, but we can't help but think that that's often true. Even the New York Times characterized it as such that this may be an attempt to box him in to see what he'll do as president. That's not the way that peaceful transitions of administrations work in our great democracy.
You think
and
these
so I
serious
think at the
actions
moment
that
the president-elect has spoken his piece on this.
Kellyanne, you think these very serious and unprecedented actions that President Obama took today, expelling 35 diplomats, giving them 72 hours to leave the country, sanctioning foreign intelligence services, you think that President Obama did that just to box in Donald Trump?
No, I was actually quoting David Sanger's piece in the New York Times, where he says in one of the opening paragraphs that this could also be an attempt to box in President-elect Trump. And I'm merely saying if the New York Times report is true and credible, that would be an unfortunate rationale here on top of any other rationales. You're right, Kate, it is unprecedented. I don't think at the height of the Cold War that this country expelled that many operatives. So I know the president is looking tough in his last couple of weeks. First, I would call them sanctions against Israel over this past weekend, and now sanctions against Russia. But the fact is that we'll see. The word symbolic is being used also by the New York Times and other such, I think, pro-Obama administration outlets. So we'll see if this has teeth, and we'll see if some of our allies follow suit.
Does the president-elect now believe that Russia is behind the hacks?
The president-elect stands by his statements, and in fact, he'll receive an intelligence briefing this coming week, probably in New York. I was in a meeting today where that was discussed, and perhaps he'll receive additional information then. But based on what he knows now, and based on what we see as leaked information to the press rather than CIA officials attending House Intelligence Committee briefings where they were invited to do so. I mean, if some of them would prefer to talk to the media off the record than actually participate in the process, then we're left with, you know, some confusion and some
I'm sure he could get that intelligence briefing, right, if he wanted to.
He'll be briefed he will be briefed further this week, but that's all I can say about it now. But Kate, let's be honest too. Every time Russian hacking is mentioned now, since Hillary Clinton lost, and it wasn't a squeaker, we got 306 electoral votes. That was 36 more than we needed. She lost states that Democrats hadn't lost in decades. Ever since then, the issue of Russian hacking has been discussed in context of the election. And that's where the president is saying that we should move on. And we should move on because the idea that there's a nexus between
I don't think anyone at this
the hacking and the election result.
I don't think at this point people are questioning the validity of the election. I don't think so. What we're hearing
they are. Many are.
But what this is about this is serious. This is about a foreign country hacking into the United States electoral process. Regardless and it doesn't even have to do with the result even. It's more that they tried to.
Well, you just said
and
electoral
did.
process. Well, but remember, too, this is really about the DNC's breach. They didn't have the proper security, I guess the protocols in place, and someone was able to hack the information. And we are not in favor of foreign governments interfering in our elections or interfering in our intelligence. But we're also not in favor of our intelligence interfering with elections after the fact. And the case is, I mean, you may feel that way, Kate. You may run your shows that way. But the fact is, in many different places, in print, on TV, on radio, on Twitter, on Facebook, ad nauseum, people are trying to create a nexus and still trying to fight the last war. And frankly, it's 52 days later. And that nexus is something that's been trying to be proven at a fever pitch since November 8th. And that's part of why the president-elect has said move on. He also says it because he is, as I said, next week going to receive additional intelligence briefings. But he's been very clear on this. And, you know, to talk any further about it actually is to violate what everybody insists that we have, which is one president at a time, which, of course, I agree with.
We know that the big focus right now for the president-elect, understandably, is crafting his inaugural speech. Kellyanne, where is his head right now on that speech?
He's very engaged. So much of this is his own personal flourish, his words, repeating his vision for the country. I know it's been reported, and it is accurate, Kate, to say that the president-elect has been focused on past inaugural addresses, certainly putting his personal stamp on his, but also talking to people about President Reagan, President John F. Kennedy, President Lincoln's inaugural addresses as examples. He certainly is aware of everyone's inaugural addresses, and different times call for, and different men call for different inaugural addresses. But this one will be very much Donald J. Trump's inaugural address in his own words. He's consulting with us, Stephen Miller, his brilliant speechwriter and policy chief, has the largest hand in this right now, working with the president-elect. But others of us are certainly offering our counsel. But you will see a product much like the victory speech in those wee hours of November 9th. That is all Donald Trump. These will be his words and his ideas, his vision for the future.
Kellyanne Conway. Thanks so much, Kellyanne.
Thank you.